My wife always packs for business trips like she's prepping for D-Day. This time, it was just a weekend with the girls in Bar Harbor. Or so she thought I believed. I'm Eli Baxter, 43 years old, owner of Baxter's Used Cars in Willoughby, Maine. Not exactly the American dream, but it pays the bills and keeps me in coffee and sarcasm. My wife Melissa thinks I'm too dumb to notice when she's lying. After 15 years of marriage, I've gotten pretty good at reading her tells. The perfume was the first clue. Chanel number 5 instead of her usual drugstore stuff. The second clue was the lingerie I glimpsed in her suitcase, black lace that definitely wasn't for Sienna Drake and the other law firm partners she claimed to be meeting. But the smoking gun? That was pure dumb luck. Honey, can you grab my purse? Melissa called from the shower. I need to check if I packed my birth control pills. Sure, babe. Let me just rifle through your secrets while you're washing off the guilt. Her purse sat on our bed like a leather landmine. I reached for her wallet, but my fingers brushed against something else. A second phone. A cheap burner phone that definitely wasn't part of her usual tech arsenal. The screen lit up with a text notification from TK. My blood turned to ice water as I read. Can't wait to have you all weekend, baby. Eli's probably already planning his pathetic TV dinners for one. God, I love making that loser look like a fool. There were more messages, graphic ones, detailed plans about what they'd do at his lakeside place, jokes about my receding hairline, my struggling business, my pathetic attempts at romance. Every word was a knife twist. Travis Kemp, her college boyfriend, the real estate hotshot who'd made it big while I was selling used Hondas to single mothers. I snapped photos of every message with my own phone, my hands shaking with rage. Not sadness, rage. There's a difference, and any man who's been betrayed knows it. Did you find them? Melissa's voice drifted from the bathroom. Yeah, they're here, I called back, sliding the burner phone back into her purse exactly where I'd found it. She emerged from the bathroom in a cloud of steam and expensive perfume, towel wrapped around her like armor. Melissa had always been beautiful, sharp cheekbones, intelligent green eyes, the kind of confidence that made men stumble over themselves. She'd used that beauty to climb from small-town nobody to partner at Willoughby's most prestigious law firm. Thanks, sweetheart, she said, kissing my cheek with lips that had probably been planning to kiss Travis in about 6 hours. I'll miss you this weekend. I'll miss you too, I lied smoothly. Drive safe. Text me when you get there. She would text me, all right, from Travis's bed, probably laughing about how easy it was to fool the dumb car dealer. After she left, I sat in my kitchen drinking bourbon and planning. Most men would have called a lawyer or confronted her immediately, but I'd learned patience in the car business. Sometimes the best deals come to those who wait for the right moment to strike. I disabled the GPS in her BMW, easy enough when you know cars like I do. Then I slipped a small tracking device into her suitcase while she loaded the car. Amazing what you can buy online these days. My phone buzzed. A text from Sienna Drake. Have fun this weekend, Eli. Try not to burn the house down while the grown-ups are away. Sienna had always treated me like Melissa's embarrassing pet. The snide comments, the eye rolls when I spoke at their law firm parties, the way she'd steer conversations toward topics I couldn't contribute to. She was Melissa's enabler, her partner in crime, and apparently her accomplice in adultery. I texted back. Thanks, Sienna. I'm planning a very memorable weekend. As Melissa's taillights disappeared down Maple Street, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Not heartbreak, liberation. The marriage had been dead for months, maybe years. Now I finally had permission to bury it properly. My phone showed Melissa's location moving toward the interstate, right on schedule for her rendezvous with Travis. I poured another bourbon and started making calls. Frankie, it's Eli. I need a favor. Frank Morrison had worked at my lot for 12 years, 60-something, built like a fire hydrant, with connections throughout Maine's automotive underground. If you needed something done quietly and efficiently, Frankie knew a guy. What kind of favor, boss? The kind that involves Travis Kemp and his fancy Escalade. A pause. The real estate prick who's been sniffing around your wife. I'd never told Frankie about my suspicions, but apparently I hadn't needed to. Small towns don't keep secrets well. That's the one. Think you could arrange for him to have some car trouble this weekend? What kind of trouble we talking about? The expensive kind. Nothing dangerous. I'm not looking to hurt anyone. Just inconvenience him. Frankie chuckled. I'll make some calls. You sure about this, Eli? Once you start down this road, I'm already on the road, Frankie. just deciding how fast to drive. After hanging up, I checked Melissa's location again. She'd stopped at a gas station 20 miles outside town, probably texting Travis that she was almost there, that her stupid husband had bought the whole girls' weekend story. I drove to the Rusty Anchor, Willoughby's premier dive bar. If you wanted to know anything about anyone in town, Marcy behind the bar was your best source. She'd been serving drinks and collecting gossip for 30 years. Well, well, Marcy said as I settled onto a bar stool. Shouldn't you be home pining for your wife? Melissa's visiting friends. Thought I'd visit some of mine. Marcy poured me a whiskey without being asked. Friends, huh? That what we're calling Travis Kemp these days? Jesus, did everyone in town know except me? How long? I asked. How long have people been talking, or how long has it been going on? Both. Marcy leaned across the bar, lowering her voice. Talk started about 2 months ago. Clive Henderson saw Travis's car in your driveway 3 times when you were supposedly at the Portland auto auction. As for how long it's been going on, she shrugged. Who knows? But Sienna Drake's been covering for her, making excuses, deflecting questions. That woman's got a mouth like a megaphone, but she's been suspiciously quiet about Melissa's social life lately. I drained my whiskey. Thanks, Marcy. Eli? She touched my arm as I stood to leave. Whatever you're planning, be smart about it. Travis Kemp's got money and connections. Don't give him ammunition to use against you. Don't worry, I'm not planning anything illegal. That was true. What I was planning was much worse than illegal. It was personal. Back home, I opened my laptop and got to work. Melissa had always been careless with passwords. She used variations of her birthday for everything. Her email account opened on the 3rd try. The digital evidence was devastating. Months of correspondence with Travis, planning their affair down to the smallest detail. Screenshots of text conversations mocking me. Photos I definitely wasn't supposed to see. But the real goldmine was in her sent folder. Email chains with Sienna about managing Eli and keeping him in the dark. Messages to her mother about how she was finally ready to make some changes in her life. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning my complete humiliation. My phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. Made it safely. The girls say hi. Love you. I stared at that message for a long time. 15 years of marriage, and it had come down to this, elaborate lies and casual cruelty. I typed back, love you too. Enjoy your weekend. Then I forwarded her location to my own email and started planning her destruction. Saturday morning brought rain and opportunity. I'd tracked Melissa's phone to Travis's lakeside mansion, a sprawling modern monstrosity that screamed new money. She was probably waking up in his bed right now, laughing about her pathetic husband back home. Frankie called at 8 a.m. It's done. Kemp's Escalade is now running on borrowed time. Engine's gonna seize up sometime in the next 24 hours. Nothing traceable, nothing dangerous, just expensive as hell to fix. How expensive? New engine expensive. Maybe 12, 15 grand. I smiled for the first time in weeks. You're an artist, Frankie. Just returning a favor, boss. That prick tried to buy my grandson's motorcycle for half what it was worth last summer. Called the kids stupid for not taking the deal. Everyone in Willoughby had a Travis Kemp story. The man had made enemies like I made car payments, regularly and without much thought. I spent the morning preparing. Ordered flowers to be delivered to Melissa's office Monday morning with a card reading, "Thanks for the amazing weekend, T." Made sure they'd arrive when the entire legal staff would be there for their weekly meeting. Then I drove to Kemp Development's downtown office. Saturday meant skeleton crew, but I knew Travis kept weekend hours when he was trying to close deals. His assistant, a young woman who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, barely glanced up when I walked in. "I'm here about the Henderson property," I said confidently. "Mr. Kemp isn't in today," she replied, without looking up from her phone. "That's odd. His car's in the parking lot." She frowned and checked her computer. "He's not available." Of course he wasn't. He was busy with my wife at his lake house, probably planning their future together, while I supposedly sat at home like a chump. "Could you give him a message? Tell him Eli Baxter stopped by, about the car lot property on Main Street." That got her attention. The car lot? I thought that wasn't for sale. Everything's for sale at the right price. Tell him I'm very interested in his offer. I wasn't, of course. But Travis had been circling my property like a vulture for 2 years, making increasingly aggressive offers. He wanted to tear down my lot and build condos, Now I was going to let him think he was finally getting what he wanted. The assistant made a note. I'll make sure he gets the message. Thanks. Oh, and tell him congratulations on his weekend plans. I'm sure he's having the time of his life. Her confusion was perfect. By Monday, she'd be wondering what that cryptic comment meant, especially when the gossip started spreading. From there, I drove to the Anchor for lunch. Marcy was working the day shift, and the usual crowd of regulars was holding court at the bar. Eli, called out Pete Dawson, a retired mechanic who'd been drinking at the Anchor since Carter was president. Heard your wife's living it up in Bar Harbor this weekend. That's what she tells me, I said, sliding onto my usual stool. Must be nice, having that kind of money to throw around, added Carol Jenkins, whose husband ran the hardware store. Legal work pays better than I thought. Melissa works hard for her money, I said carefully. She deserves to enjoy it. Sure does, Marcy said, setting down my usual burger and fries. Though I heard Bar Harbor's pretty expensive this time of year. Hope she budgeted for it. The conversation drifted to other topics, but I could feel the undercurrent of curiosity. Willoughby was the kind of town where everyone knew everyone else's business, and Melissa's sudden expensive weekend was already raising eyebrows. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off, Eli. You don't want to play this game. Travis. He must have gotten my message about stopping by his office. I texted back. What game? I'm just a simple car dealer trying to make a living. The response came immediately. Stay away from my business and stay away from me. Or what? You'll steal my wife? Too late for that threat, don't you think? A long pause. Then, you have no idea what you're messing with. Enlighten me. But he didn't respond. Apparently, Travis was better at seducing wives than he was at intimidating husbands. I finished my lunch and drove home to wait. Phase 1 was complete. I'd planted seeds of doubt, set up future embarrassment, and let Travis know I wasn't as clueless as he thought. But this was just the beginning. By the time I was finished, Travis Kemp and my cheating wife would wish they'd never met each other, let alone decided to humiliate me. My phone showed Melissa's location still at the lake house, probably planning their romantic evening, while Travis's expensive SUV ticked like a time bomb in the driveway. I poured myself a bourbon and settled in to wait for the fireworks to begin. Sunday morning brought the first explosion. My phone rang at 7 a.m. Travis, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. You son of a bitch, what did you do to my car? I stretched and yawned, making sure he could hear it. Good morning, Travis. Beautiful day, isn't it? How's your weekend going? My Escalade won't start. The engine's completely shot. This is sabotage. That's terrible news. Have you tried calling AAA? Don't play games with me, Baxter. I know you're behind this. Behind what? I'm just a simple car dealer, remember? I don't know anything about fancy Escalades. Though I do have a nice 2015 Honda Civic on the lot if you need reliable transportation. The silence stretched long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. Finally. This isn't over. I certainly hope not. I'm just getting started. This time he did hang up. I checked Melissa's location, still at the lake house, probably comforting her lover over his mechanical difficulties. An hour later, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Clive Henderson, my 70-year-old neighbor, holding a cup of coffee and wearing his usual expression of barely contained gossip. Morning, Eli. Quiet weekend? Very peaceful, Clive. What can I do for you? Funny thing, I was walking Buster yesterday morning, and I could have sworn I saw Travis Kemp's car in your driveway. But then I remembered, your wife's out of town this weekend. Clive had the best view of my driveway from his kitchen window. He also had the biggest mouth in the neighborhood. Must have been a similar car, I said. You know how those luxury SUVs all look alike? He sipped his coffee thoughtfully. Course, I've seen that particular car here several times when you were out of town. Always wondered about that. People make mistakes, Clive. Easy to get driveways confused. Sure. Though I did mention it to Martha at the grocery store, and she mentioned it to her sister. You know how these things spread. I certainly did. By noon, half the town would be buzzing with speculation. Thanks for keeping an eye on things, Clive. Always good to have observant neighbors. After he left, I drove to the lot to check on things. Frankie was there early, tinkering with a 2018 Camry. How'd our friend like his car trouble? He asked, without looking up. About as much as you'd expect. He called me this morning, practically foaming at the mouth. Whoa, good. Man like that needs to be taken down a few pegs. I was about to respond when my phone rang. Melissa, finally checking in. Hi, sweetheart, I answered. How's Bar Harbor? It's wonderful. The girls and I are having such a great time. Her voice was bright, cheerful, completely convincing if you didn't know better. What are you up to today? Just puttering around the lot, thinking about that offer Travis Kemp made for the property. A pause. What about it? Might be time to consider it seriously. Business hasn't been great lately. Eli, we've talked about this. The lot is your father's legacy. You can't just sell it to some developer. Travis isn't just some developer. He's got vision, ambition, qualities I admire in a man. Another pause, longer this time. Why are you bringing this up now? Just thinking about the future, Melissa. About what I want out of life. About whether the people closest to me really have my best interests at heart. Of course I have your best interests at heart. I'm your wife. Yes, you are. For better or worse, in sickness and in health, forsaking all others. Remember those vows? Eli, you're scaring me. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I'm just having a very educational weekend, learning all sorts of interesting things about the people in my life. I don't understand. You will. Enjoy the rest of your time with the girls. I'll see you tonight. I hung up before she could respond. Let her spend the rest of the day wondering what I meant. Let her and Travis panic about what I might know. My phone immediately started buzzing with texts from Melissa, but I ignored them. Instead, I called Sienna Drake. Eli, why are you calling me? Just wanted to thank you for being such a good friend to my wife, really going above and beyond to support her this weekend. What do you mean? Oh, you know, covering for her, making excuses, helping her maintain her story. That's what friends do, right? Help each other lie to their spouses? A sharp intake of breath. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. Tell me, Sienna, how long have you known about Travis? The silence was deafening. Thought so. You might want to start thinking about whether your law license is worth protecting a cheating wife, professional ethics and all that. I hung up and smiled. The dominoes were starting to fall. Monday morning arrived, with all the subtlety of a freight train. I was at the lot early, waiting for the show to begin. The flowers I'd ordered would be delivered to Melissa's law firm at 9 a.m., right when the weekly staff meeting started. Frankie arrived with coffee and donuts, settling in to watch the drama unfold. You sure about this, boss? Once this gets out, there's no putting it back in the bottle. The bottle's already broken, Frankie. I'm just deciding who gets cut by the glass. My phone started ringing at 9:15. Melissa, probably calling from the law firm's parking lot, after seeing the flowers and realizing her secret was blown wide open. I let it go to voicemail. The second call came 5 minutes later, then a third. By 9:30, I had 7 missed calls and a dozen increasingly frantic text messages. Please call me back. We need to talk. This isn't what it looks like. I can explain everything. The classics. Every cheating spouse's greatest hits. At 10 a.m., Sienna Drake pulled into my lot, driving like she was fleeing a crime scene. She parked crooked across 2 spaces and stormed toward my office, her designer heels clicking on the asphalt like gunshots. You bastard, she snarled, bursting through my door without knocking. Good morning, Sienna. Lovely day, isn't it? Do you have any idea what you've done? The entire firm is in chaos. Melissa's locked herself in her office. The partners are asking questions. And those flowers. What flowers? Don't play dumb. Thanks for the amazing weekend, T. Really? You couldn't have been more obvious if you'd hired a skywriter. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying her panic. I have no idea what you're talking about. If someone sent Melissa flowers, maybe you should ask her about it. This is going to destroy her career. No, Sienna. Her choices are going to destroy her career. I'm just making sure everyone knows what those choices were. She leaned across my desk, her face flushed with anger. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea who you're messing with. Travis has connections, money, influence. He can ruin you. Can he? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like his expensive car is in the shop, and his secret affair just became public knowledge. Doesn't seem very influential to me. This isn't over. You're right. It's not. After she left, I called my lawyer, not Melissa's firm, but a competitor across town. Jim Walsh had been trying to poach me as a client for years, and now seemed like the perfect time to switch allegiances. Jim, it's Eli Baxter. I need to discuss divorce proceedings. I'm sorry to hear that, Eli, but I'm not surprised. When do you want to come in? This afternoon if possible. And Jim, I want to make sure we do this right. By the book, completely legal, but as devastating as possible. That's what I'm here for. My phone buzzed with another call from Melissa. This time I answered. Ely, thank God. We need to talk right now. Do we? Because I thought we were done talking when you decided to start communicating through burner phones and secret weekend getaways. How did you? She caught herself. It's not what you think. Really, because I think my wife has been having an affair with her college boyfriend, lying to me for months, and planning to leave me for a man who treats me like garbage. Am I wrong about any of that? Silence. That's what I thought. Here's what's going to happen, Melissa. You're going to come home tonight, pack your things, and get out. We'll handle the divorce through lawyers. Eli, please, can't we at least discuss this like adults? Adults don't sneak around behind their spouse's back. Adults don't mock their marriage to their lovers. Adults don't spend months planning elaborate deceptions. I never meant for it to happen. It just did. No, it didn't just happen. You chose it. Every text, every lie, every time you looked me in the eye and pretended to love me while you were planning to leave me for him. You chose all of it. I do love you. No, you don't. And you know what? I'm glad, because I'm finally seeing who you really are, and I don't love that person at all. I hung up and turned off my phone. Let her panic. Let her and Travis figure out how to handle the fallout from their exposed affair. Frankie poked his head into my office. Everything okay, boss? Better than okay, Frankie. For the first time in months, everything's exactly as it should be. By Tuesday, the story had spread through Willoughby like wildfire. The flowers, Travis's mysteriously dead Escalade, Melissa's sudden absence from work. It all painted a picture that even the most charitable gossips couldn't ignore. I was having lunch at the Anchor when Pete Dawson approached my table with a grin that could have powered the town. Eli, you sly dog. Heard you gave Travis Kemp a taste of his own medicine. I don't know what you mean, Pete. Sure you don't. Word is his fancy car died right in the middle of his romantic weekend. Karma's a bitch, ain't it? Before I could respond, the bar door swung open and Travis himself walked in. The conversation died instantly as every head turned to watch. He looked like hell, unshaven, wearing yesterday's clothes, with the kind of desperate anger that comes from watching your perfect plan fall apart. He spotted me immediately and marched over, his face red with fury. You think you've won something? He snarled, loud enough for the entire bar to hear. You think destroying my car and embarrassing Melissa makes you a big man? I set down my beer and looked up at him calmly. I think you should lower your voice, Travis. People are staring. Let them stare. Let them see what kind of pathetic loser tries to sabotage other people instead of improving himself. The bar was dead silent now. Even Marcy had stopped washing glasses to watch the show. Sabotage? I stood up slowly, keeping my voice level. That's a serious accusation. You have any proof? I know it was you. Knowing and proving are two different things. But since we're talking about proof, I pulled out my phone and opened the photos I'd taken of Melissa's burner phone. Want to explain these messages to everyone? Travis's face went white as he recognized the screenshots. The explicit texts, the mocking comments about me, the detailed plans for their affair. It was all there in high definition. Where did you get those? From my wife's secret phone. The one she thought I was too stupid to find. I turned to address the room. See, Travis here has been having an affair with my wife for months. They've been meeting at his lake house, laughing about what a fool I am, planning their future together, while I worked 60-hour weeks to support her lifestyle. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. In a small town like Willoughby, adultery was serious business, especially when it involved prominent people like Melissa and Travis. That's private, Travis said weakly. Was private. Now it's public. Just like your car trouble. Just like those flowers that got delivered to her law firm. Just like the fact that half the town saw your Escalade in my driveway when I was out of town. Travis looked around the room, seeing the judgment in every face. These were people who'd known me for years, who'd bought cars from me, who'd watched me build my business from nothing. They were also people who'd dealt with Travis's arrogance, his condescending attitude, his assumption that money made him better than everyone else. You're pathetic, he said, but the fight was going out of him. Maybe, but I'm not a cheater, I'm not a liar, and I'm not the one whose expensive car broke down in the middle of his adultery weekend. That got a few chuckles from the crowd. Travis's face flushed darker. This isn't over. Yeah, it is. Your affair is exposed, your reputation is shot, and your car is scrap metal. What else you got? He looked like he wanted to throw a punch, but Pete Dawson and two other regulars had moved closer, making it clear that wouldn't end well for him. Travis turned and stalked out, leaving behind a bar full of people eager to discuss what they'd just witnessed. Drinks are on me, I announced, and the tension broke into laughter and applause. But I wasn't done yet, not even close. Wednesday brought the piece de resistance. I'd spent Tuesday evening preparing the final phase of my revenge, and now it was time to deploy it. The Willoughby Gazette came out every Wednesday morning, and this week's edition featured a full-page advertisement that I'd paid for personally. BAXTER's Used Cars. Trustworthy deals from a trustworthy man. Unlike some people in this town, we believe in honesty, integrity, and keeping our promises. We've been serving Willoughby families for 25 years with the same values we bring to our own marriages. When you buy from Baxter's, you're buying from someone who understands loyalty. Can you say the same about your real estate developer? It was subtle enough to avoid libel charges, but clear enough that everyone in town would understand exactly what I was saying. But the real masterstroke came at noon, when I held a press conference in the town square. I'd invited every local media outlet, every gossip blogger, every social media influencer within 50 miles. The turnout was better than I'd hoped. Apparently, small-town adultery scandals were good for ratings. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, standing behind a podium I'd borrowed from the library. I want to talk to you today about trust. The crowd was substantial, maybe 100 people, including several I recognized as Melissa's former friends and colleagues. For 15 years, I trusted my wife. I trusted her when she said she was working late. I trusted her when she said she was having girls' weekends. I trusted her when she looked me in the eye and told me she loved me. I paused, letting that sink in. That trust was misplaced. For months, my wife has been conducting an affair with Travis Kemp, a local real estate developer who has been trying to buy my family's business for years. They've been meeting at his lake house, mocking me in text messages, and planning a future together, while I worked to support the lifestyle that allowed her to betray me. Cameras flashed and phones recorded as I continued. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because I believe this community deserves to know what kind of people they're dealing with. When you hire a lawyer, you want someone with integrity. When you buy real estate, you want someone trustworthy. I'll let you decide whether Melissa Baxter and Travis Kemp meet those standards. I held up printed copies of the text messages, the emails, the evidence I'd gathered. These documents tell the story better than I ever could. They show a pattern of deception, manipulation, and contempt for the very values this community was built on. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Travis Kemp has spent years treating the people of this town like obstacles to his profit margins. He's tried to buy my business, my neighbors' homes, and apparently my wife. Well, he can have her. But he can't have my dignity, my integrity, or my respect for the people who've supported me all these years. I looked directly at the cameras. To everyone who's ever been betrayed, lied to, or treated like they didn't matter, you're not alone, and you don't have to suffer in silence. Sometimes the best revenge is simply telling the truth. The press conference made the evening news on 3 stations and went viral on social media within hours. The hashtag #WilloughbyRevenge started trending locally, and by Thursday morning, the story had been picked up by regional news outlets. Melissa's law firm issued a statement that she was taking a leave of absence to address personal matters. Travis Kemp's real estate company suddenly found several major deals falling through as clients reconsidered their business relationships. But the real victory came Friday afternoon, when I got a call from the bank. Mr. Baxter, this is Janet Morrison from First National. We've had several inquiries about financing for used car purchases, specifically from your lot. Apparently, people are impressed by your recent public statements about integrity. My business, which had been struggling for months, suddenly had more customers than I could handle. People drove from 3 counties away to buy cars from that honest guy who exposed the cheaters. Meanwhile, Melissa had moved in with her mother after Travis suddenly decided he needed space to figure things out. Apparently, public humiliation wasn't as romantic as secret affairs. Sienna Drake's law firm quietly asked for her resignation when it came out that she'd been covering for Melissa's affair, violating professional ethics rules. And Travis? His real estate empire started crumbling when investors realized that a man who couldn't keep his personal life private might not be trustworthy with their money. 6 months later, I was sitting in my expanded car lot. I'd bought the adjacent property when business boomed, reading the final divorce decree. Melissa got half of what we'd built together, which was fair, but she also got a reputation that would follow her wherever she went. She'd moved to Portland, trying to rebuild her legal career, but small legal communities talk. Everyone knew the story of the lawyer who'd betrayed her husband and lost everything. Travis had fared even worse. His company went bankrupt when three major investors pulled out, citing concerns about leadership integrity. He'd moved to Boston, where nobody knew about his Willoughby scandal, and was working for someone else's real estate firm. Sienna was selling insurance in Bangor, her legal career over. As for me, I was doing better than I had in years. The publicity had brought in customers from across Maine, all wanting to buy from the honest car dealer they'd heard about. I'd hired 3 new salespeople and was considering opening a second location, but more than that, I was free. Free from lies, free from betrayal, free from pretending to love someone who saw me as nothing more than a convenient fool. My phone rang. A customer calling about a 2019 Subaru they'd seen on my website. Baxter's Used Cars. This is Eli. Hi, I saw your story on the news. I want to buy a car from someone I can trust. I smiled. Well, you've come to the right place. Trust is the only thing I've got left to sell, and I'm not giving it away cheap anymore. As I walked out to show the customer around my lot, I passed the framed newspaper clipping on my office wall, the one from the day after my press conference, with the headline, "Local Man's Revenge Serves Justice Cold." Some people say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say it's better served publicly, with a side of truth and a garnish of consequences. Oh, Melissa and Travis had thought they were so clever, so superior, so untouchable. They'd underestimated the power of a man who'd finally stopped pretending their lies didn't hurt. They'd wanted to humiliate me in private. Instead, I'd humiliated them in public. They'd wanted to destroy my marriage quietly. Instead, I'd destroyed their reputations loudly. They'd thought love was a game where the smartest players won. They'd learned it was a war where the most honest soldiers survived. Standing in my successful business, surrounded by customers who respected me and employees who trusted me, I realized something important. I hadn't just gotten revenge on my cheating wife and her arrogant lover. I'd gotten my life back. And that was worth more than any marriage built on lies, any friendship based on deception, or any love that came with conditions and expiration dates. Travis and Melissa had taught me an invaluable lesson about trust. I'd taught them an even more valuable lesson about consequences. In